Hello and welcome to another episode of the Black and White Thinking podcast. I got confused there because I've changed where we put the camera. So I was like, what's going on? Anyway, how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good, I'm alright, thanks.
Good.
Well, so I was going to say lovely day. It's not a lovely day. It was raining and my washings got wet, which is ridiculous.
Not to worry.
So you see. I've just noticed you don't have your hair in a bun.
And now we're having on a bun.
Yeah, but alright, ponytail. You're supposed to be trialing it. See how it works.
Not really the weather for it, is it?
Is it not? Right. Anyway, right. This week's episode, we are talking prenups.
Yeah.
Prenup. Right. So, I suggested this because I just thought when we talk about our lives, obviously we've got our own stuff that goes out on social media. We're talking about going into property together, getting married, starting a family. But running multiple businesses together, and me involving you in stuff that I started before you were ever on the scene. So I think it's a good one to talk about because whilst it can be very heavy, when we've kind of covered it, I think that you've had some really good straight to the point points. Does that make sense? Straight to the point points. Yeah. And I think especially looking at it from this dynamic where the idea is I will be the breadwinner and you will be the stay-at-home parent. So even in that sense, I think I'm used to seeing these conversations happen with a man that's going to be the breadwinner, that rather than it be the other way. And I think one, the way that maybe we approach things is a little bit different, but two, in this dynamic, I think we've got a lot of respect for each other, and whatever decisions we make are based off of what's best for us. And I was saying to you before that, let's be honest, our relationship is like a business. I'm not surprised that you agreed straight away, but it's in the fact that we make decisions like a business. Do we keep going forward with something? Is it good for us or not? Yes or no?
Yeah, but it should be, shouldn't it?
Exactly.
It should. I mean, I think people fall into the notion that, it's like two people become one and all that stuff. And really, it's a nice idea, but at some level, it's got to be more practical than that.
Yeah.
Because the whole all we need is love idea isn't really how it is.
Yeah. But I think that speaks volumes of like how you think about things as well, because you're such an intentional person. And for you to make a commitment, obviously we did a podcast before where we talked about marriage, and the clip that we used, someone was like, oh, I won't want my partner to talk like that. I can't remember, like the clip was something like, well, I started dating because I knew I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah, but that, I mean,
that's the truth. None of us were.
Well, yeah, but probably the way I said it was a little bit tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I probably said something about not wanting to die alone.
Yeah, but also we're gonna
really,
pick.
We all die alone.
You're wild. But anyway, the point to that still was we're gonna pick the sound bites that sound clickbaity, so people want to listen. But also, me being with you, someone might not want to be with you because of the way that you think, and that's okay. I want to be with you because of the way that you think, and I'd like to think you want to be with me because of the way that I think. I think people also need to be realistic that your partner isn't supposed to be your be-all and end-all. So going into a relationship, you need to be clear on what you want, what you don't want, what you're willing to accept versus what you're not willing to accept. And I think a lot of people aren't honest about that because, one, maybe being scared. Two, it's that being scared of being alone as well. But if we're going to be honest, even that being tongue-in-cheek, the reason people date is because we want to find someone that fulfills a neediness that wasn't fulfilled somewhere else normally. So we all want our person. And when you look at that in the context of things like prenups, it's, to me, that a prenup is a smart decision. The way I think about it is, if if we have kids and they're getting a relationship, we are going to have built a very strong foundation mentally, physically, financially for them. I don't want someone to just come along and mess them about and then take their money that we've worked for. So my advice to my kids would be, yeah, you get a prenup. Even if you've got your own, you get a prenup.
Yeah, I suppose there's two sides to it, really, isn't there? I mean, like the thing that came to my mind whenever you mentioned this topic was um, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. They always talk about it being the most expensive divorce ever.
Yeah.
But I imagine that probably worked out that Kenny Rogers had to pay her a ton of money, alimony as they call it. And maybe at that time they didn't have a prenup,
Yeah.
which is probably why he ended up paying through the nose.
Yeah.
But I mean, I look at it from my point of view in that, well, I don't feel like there's any need for me to get you to sign a prenup because I don't have anything anyway. Unless you want 16 instruments, then that's all I've got.
16 instruments are already in our house.
So, I feel like I don't necessarily feel like I would want somebody to feel like they needed to sign one because I don't feel like I would ever be of the mindset, well, if things didn't work out, I would want a load of money or whatever it may be. But obviously, if people get together and they have lots of assets and they want to protect those assets, as you say, maybe for like children or future generations or whatever, then arguably it makes sense. But like I said, I don't feel that I would maybe want somebody to sign one. As I said, partly because I don't have assets to protect, but I feel like it just makes it seem so transactional.
Yeah, I got what you mean.
It's like, and to me, it implies that there's a lack of trust, or that on some level you think that this person has an ulterior motive in the long run.
Yeah.
So why would you have to have a legally binding contract that underpins your relationship should worse come to worst? To me, it feels like you're setting yourself up for a fall.
Yeah. But then I think you're right, because the way I thought about it was, whilst I don't have a lot, I have a house, and that house, moving forward, well, right now is our house, but moving forward, especially once we get married, it's ours. And I think you are right, because the way I'd thought about it was, I've been burnt in my relationships. I have always given so much. So do I risk this time and not do anything and end up being burnt in a way? And it's not even to say that I don't trust you in that sense, because again, from like you've said, from your point of view, I think this is different depending on where you are financially and where you are in life. But thinking about it from my context is, we will build something together, but I will have had something of my own before that. And I've seen the women in my family not have anything of their own, help the men in their lives build something, and then just be left with nothing. And that's why I think about it as well from the point of view of having kids. But the other side of me that's been in therapy also goes, you're not those people that have let me down or let other people in my life down. So when I first approached, like, it just, because it's not like I was talking to you about it seriously, it was just to see, just a conversation. And the way you answered it straight away made me feel like you don't have an ulterior motive. The way you live day to day is very intentional. And if anything, that proves to me more than anything that you are my partner. And a lot of the things I now have and the life I am now going to have is because you have been my partner and you help me build things, whether it's in business or in life, feeding me so that I'm not spending time in the kitchen cooking. I can spend a little bit more time working. Huge. Sitting here doing something like this that's quick. This is something that, yeah, I might be working, but we'll go to my mum and dad's after this. And I don't have any work to do because I've done my priority list. I've done everything for the week. It's going to be a short week this week. And I'm not panicking because I can do everything in 3 days. So, do I want to make you feel some type of way that's going to be negative when actually you're already doing things that make me feel like I don't need to worry about it? The healthier version of me goes, well, no, I don't need that. And that's why, like, I wouldn't ask for it. But the practical version of me being a woman and me being a woman that is building something to other women, I would say to them, it's case by case.
Yeah.
You need to be with someone, and whenever you're making those decisions, because again, it's not that, like, in the little things that we'll do, like I said, when we talk about our relationship being like a business, we will still have things put in place, whether it's you putting in money in to invest in property, there will be a contract there. Not because I feel I'm going to do something to you, but it also gives you that security of knowing that, yes, because I also think of it as, if we have kids and you stay home with the kids, you're still working and you're doing a really difficult job that I feel like I wouldn't be able to do as good as you.
Not that difficult.
So you say, but it is hard. Raising kids is hard. And when you say not that difficult, I think that's because of the type of person that you are and you've thought about this and you know the type of life that you want for your kids and the way that you want things to be done. I think people make things difficult, but we've sat down and discussed this, so we know that one of us suits this better. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be involved at all. It doesn't mean that I'm not looking at making sure that I take time off and do things. It doesn't mean we're not putting things in place. It just means that we've been practical and there will be things put in place to make sure that no matter what, both of us are kept safe, but our kids will be kept safe.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for normal, everyday people, it doesn't, I don't see, you know, I don't see that it's as important, but
Mm.
like, I think it first really became a thing of being aware of it maybe in the 90s.
Mm.
Like, you know, like high powered, like business people or like movie stars
Yeah.
or whatever would get married, but in that context, when they're both parties are two Hollywood degenerates with a horrible track record,
Mm.
then you probably would want to hedge your bets. I guess it's a
Yeah.
little like hedging your bets, and like,
Yeah.
well, this person has had three failed marriages,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of assets, then hedging your bets probably makes sense.
Mm.
Um, and in that context, yeah, you can see that it does make sense, but I still feel like it's just I feel like it sets off on the wrong trajectory, and that you're already looking towards like a negative outcome. And
Mm.
I feel like if you set off with that intention, then surely it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that I expect this to happen,
Mm.
and I have put it in black and white and signed off on it, then I feel like you're sealing your fate in some way. Like how many marriages that begin with a prenuptial agreement end in divorce?
That'd be interesting to look at.
Probably a high percentage.
But when you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, but like for example, I have things put in place should I not be alive anymore, and those things include.
Well, we're all gonna die, so
Yeah.
it
Okay.
makes
Fair
sense.
enough.
But we're not all gonna get divorced.
Yeah.
Whereas if you set it in stone, what happens when you do get divorced? I feel like it's probably more likely. I feel like the people that you hear about who have had prenups in place and end up getting divorced, I feel like they sealed their fate by doing that to begin with.
Mm.
But at the same time, if you've got tens, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars or pounds in assets, then you're probably inclined to protect those. It's a bit of a weird area, I suppose.
Yeah.
It doesn't really apply to most people because, say, you do get married and get divorced, usually it's decided by the courts anyway.
But
And probably the way that it's decided in the courts isn't right either in normal circumstances because it can often favour one party over another
I was just about to say that.
unfairly, you could argue. So maybe it makes more sense to decide it yourself beforehand.
Especially
so
when
the courts can't decide.
Especially when you look at, like we're saying, couples where traditionally it's the woman that stays at home. I've seen so many versions of women that are like, and again, like I'm saying, I've seen this in my own family, of women that haven't had their own bank accounts. If everything's in the husband's name, it's technically his money. Houses in the husband's name, you own nothing. Car in your husband's name, you own nothing. So I think there's an element of, like you're saying, if you have something to protect as a woman, I think case by case, protect yourself while you can, but also educate yourself and be smart enough to know that if you make decisions like being the stay-at-home parent, you put things in place to make sure that you've got money hidden away. You've got, like, I was, because I always think, I go to a client that gives me lots of advice, and this is a man, but it's a man that has lots of women in his life, and he's talked to me about, like, what have you thought about what you're going to put in place? Have you thought about how you want your life to be and all of that? But he also, because when he tells me about how he's got things with his wife, he'll always say, like, I made sure she was financially independent. And he's not saying about putting things in place in terms of like prenups or anything like that. It's more of, if you decide you want to leave, have I thought about what I'm going to do to make sure that you have everything you need to be able to leave of your own accord and not feel like you have to stay?
Yeah, but that's a good person who cares about the other person.
Yeah.
The significant other in their life. Whereas if you are in, like, say you're just regular people and you're in a relationship and you're about to get married, or you're heading down that road and you feel that I need to protect myself legally, then maybe that's simply something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
As to why you feel that way. It could just be something in your own life or your own past.
Yeah, an insecurity.
That's brought you to that point, or it could be that your partner's a scumbag and you probably shouldn't marry them in the first place.
Yeah.
Like I said, how many high-profile people have a prenup and then ultimately get divorced?
Yeah.
It would be interesting to find out the ratio of, like, people who sign a prenup who then actually do go on to get divorced. And I think even it doesn't really fully protect you anyway, because if you put something in a prenup and then say you have kids or whatever that isn't covered by that, then legally, if you get divorced and you're the breadwinner, then there's a legal obligation to pay child support anyway.
Yeah.
So you're going to get cleaned out either way.
But there are people that find loopholes, and there's all that, because I've seen people that go. So, for example, there's a woman I saw, and she was wanting to leave her husband. She'd been the stay-at-home parent, tried to leave, couldn't leave. Why? Because even though everything, so she helped her husband build this company. Most of it, a lot of it, like was her blood, sweat, and tears, but it was in his name. Everything financially was in his name, but he worked with accountants that made it look like he didn't really earn anything. So the courts have to go by what they see on paper. So if they're going, well, he's not making anything, he doesn't need to pay anything because there's technically nothing to pay. And she sat in a car and she's going, she lived in a car for a little bit of time, and she's like, what was I supposed to do? But luckily, because she'd got that business knowledge, she was able to start again. And she talked to people about, like, yes, you're glamorizing this whole I want to be a stay-at-home mom like this generation, but you're forgetting that there's a reason why women fought for the right to vote, for the right to for us to be able to work do the things that we do today because they were burnt. So whilst you're glamorizing all of this, here's an example of me where I thought I was going to be safe and everything was going to be okay. So I think, like you said, it's also, are you marrying a good person? And there are questions you need to ask yourself. And you're a perfect example. For me, that wasn't even a question like, do I want a prenup then? Because I know I will marry a good person. I know I will marry someone that cares about me and has shown that from day one. So where I did have insecurities and trust issues, I don't have those with you because you've proven that, again, no matter what, and again, it's not even going into that blindly thinking, oh, things will always be perfect for this. Because again, I've given the example of we will always have things put in place to know that whenever we do anything in business, there will be things put in place to make sure that both of us are protected and both of us are okay. Because again, we're also working with outside parties, investors. So why would we not want to make sure that we're kept safe? Because you can't. Whilst we could trust each other, it doesn't mean that you are going to blindly trust someone else. Because again, they have their own lives and expectations, and if things go wrong in their life, doesn't mean that they're going to be good to you. So, for or against prenups?
I would say against,
Oh,
simply because, like I said, it feels like a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that you are almost like preempting things going wrong and setting an expectation of the other person in your life. And it's almost like it sets it up so that one party could actually be set to benefit greatly
yeah,
if this relationship goes wrong.
yeah,
So it almost like sets an intention in the other person's mind too of, oh well, it doesn't really matter. I'll still end up with millions of pounds.
yeah.
So I just feel like it sort of doesn't set a good basis for building a relationship. So I would say no.
Fair play. And as a woman, I am going for prenups. Specifically from a woman's point of view. Again, my reasoning is just because it's taken me this long to find you. There aren't that many good men out there. And I think I've seen too many people get burned. I've had to do a lot of work to find where I'm comfortable and how I'm happy with you. And I think that a lot of people do go into, I've seen a lot of women that genuinely go into relationships, and this is generalized, not to say that all men are bad, obviously, but I've seen too many women go into something thinking that they'll be protected, loving someone else. And I think even that clause of if you help someone build something, even if it's just being you staying at home and doing those things, every little thing you do for me, I appreciate. But I've seen them get burnt, and when you help someone build something, and then they go, "Well, your name's not on this. You didn't technically help me build it." That's where I'd say, if the assets to protect, and you can be protected, knowing that if that person cheats or does something like that, you can be protected. Work away, go and do it, because better to have done that. Not that it's to be in a self-fulfilling prophecy, it's just to be smart and know that whilst you might give your all in a relationship, that person needs to also understand that they have to do that, otherwise there are consequences.
Or, like I said, the prenup just goes, well, sure, it doesn't look right. You're set to benefit financially anyway, so
I don't think it's even just about benefiting
it's like
financially,
a get out of jail free card.
but I don't think it's just about benefiting financially.
No,
I
no,
think,
but you're planting that seed.
but I think it's more of a what if. I think, like I said, I've seen too many people go into something with a purest of hearts. I love this man, and then be burnt, and then not be able to escape, not be able to start again. So, if that is something that can be done, do it, because I think that there are a lot of things that we can put in place that can be a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because of how we look at things. So I think you also have to do a lot of internal work on yourself and as a couple to make sure that that doesn't become self-fulfilling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, still against.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh, this is so silly. Right. I, 35, started my tattoo sleeve, and my husband, 34 male, is mad because another man mocked me. Did I do something wrong? So I recently started a traditional sleeve. It's going to be pieced together, and I found a really good male artist nearby. I don't know any women in my area who do trad style. I really like his work and had the availability, great prices, and I just went for it. Pardon me. The first one I got, my husband was fine with. I told him before I reached out to the artist, showed him his Instagram, showed him the flower I was getting. After the appointment, I called him to let him know how it went well. He was cool, and he's a powerlifter, so we talked about the gym a lot. The artist had missed a spot and had let me know to come in and would give me a good price on my next one. So I sent him a couple of things and made an appointment for two more because the alarm felt incomplete with just one. My husband knew about this appointment. The day of, yesterday, he was very distant. I invited him to come with me, but he said no. So I left, got them done, and came home. Now it's been almost 24 hours and he's not really spoken to me. Today he came to me and he said he's upset because I let another man mark me forever before he got to mark me. Ah, oh, Jesus. He knew I wanted a sleeve. I've been showing him pictures of tattoos for months. He knows I've had issues with my body my whole life. He knew I never felt confident enough to be myself and do things I wanted to do. And he was happy that I was finally trying to become the person I always wanted to be. My Insta my Insta is literally full of girls working out, traditional tattoos, and girls working out with tattoos. I wanted them for years, and she's put this in capitals. And I'm finally doing it. Edit. He is not and has never been a tattoo artist. Did she do something wrong?
No. She got a tattoo.
Made everything clear. Explained it. Even invited him.
He's an idiot.
Absolute idiot. But saying he's upset because I let another man mark me forever before he got to mark me. You're not a tattoo artist. What do you mean?
And her husband's a powerlifter, or the tattoo artist.
I think the tattoo artist's a powerlifter. So they've just got stuff in common. So if someone's sat there marking you for hours, you're going to talk about things. And if the gym is something you've both got in common, it's just going to come up in conversation.
He's an idiot.
Absolute idiot. But yeah, that one's not even going to take long. Not done anything wrong. He's an idiot. And he's your husband. This is a great example of why I was saying.
So my advice would be get divorced and pick up with a tattoo guy.
Just for the sake of it.
Well,
why not?
they've probably got more in common than her and the husband.
Yeah.
He's not in the tattoos, not in the powerlifting. And she's found somebody who's in the tattoos and powerlifting.
And clearly, also she's not as. I feel like she sounds like she's been quite insecure, except she's sounding a bit more like she's finding herself. He's been the insecure one.
Yeah, just being a jealous little boy.
Yeah, that's wild. But you see what I was talking about in terms of because she wouldn't have got married to him thinking he's going to be weird about this type of stuff.
I mean, there are probably other signs.
Yeah, there probably were other signs.
It's not about the tattoos, is it?
Yeah.
It's about the fact that he's probably insecure.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely wild. Great. That was a nice quick one. Ugh. Right. Thank you guys. And thank you. Oh, as always. See, it wasn't too bad, was it? You thought it was going to be really deep.
Well.
He's been trying to get me to think of really light-hearted topics, and that's not how my brain works because I need to tick multiple boxes at once when I'm doing something. Do you see how I did that? Like, from both ways? Because I'm ambidextrous. I'm using both sides of my brain.
Alright.
Anyway, keep liking, subscribing, leaving comments, and as we said before, if you've got any dilemmas yourself that you want some advice on, feel free to ask us and we will include it as part of this. Fab. See you in 2 weeks' time.